Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and one of my favourite mods from Warhammer 2 has finally made it to Game 3. So you might remember Old World Rites in Warhammer 2, which was wildly popular. Now it's finally here in Game 3 and yeah, it's new and improved. So what this mod did in Game 2 and still does in Game 3 is it gives rights to Game 1 factions, which is just to bring them more in level with the Game 2. Some of the races admittedly don't need them because obviously they've had quite extensive reworks, but even then they have fallen behind and a little bit of a boost does help. Here we have the Beastmen, which admittedly might not need extra mechanics, but a little bit of flavor is actually quite good. You can see here we have 4 rather different but very useful bonuses, which ultimately work very similar to the Bad Moon mechanic, but just less random, which I kind of like. However, things start to get a lot more interesting when we start looking towards the Bretonnians. So you've got Core Errantry, which you can summon an army. I'll showcase that a little bit later. Lady's Grace, Peasant's Duty, and a tournament too. All of them very, very different. And let's be honest, right now, Bretonnia could use a little bit of help considering that the most recent update, patch 3.1, I mean, they're very, very strong in certain places, but some mechanics that were added in just don't work. Like, for example, the Prophetess's Trough feature. Overall, these bonuses look fairly decent, especially the Lady's Grace. That one's going to be really helpful if you're, like, pushing into Noska, if you're pushing into the Chaos Wastes. I kind of like the idea of this. I think it's very different. You can tell that this has been new and improved, and it's further showcased when you can call an errantry. So I quite like this system where you're going to basically summon in an army. It's not going to be the best army, but it's very much one of these, hey, last second, we need a force, and yeah, pretty cool to be honest. It's going to be quite helpful if, say for example, Be'lakor randomly decides to declare war on you, or the most common culprit, which would be Wulfric the Wanderer. Now you can summon an army and actually defend yourself without having to waste, like, say for example, 5 or 6 turns, charging back up Bretonnia and potentially losing land. The Dwarfs have a nice little bit of help here, considering that, yeah, they need a little bit of help. Again, these are temporary bonuses that you can only get for a small while, so it's pretty good to have this, especially for the Dwarfs, where, say for example, Seal the Holds, which gives you a lot of bonuses when you're on the siege. Well, you know, when player bias kicks in and you need a little bit of help, that's definitely going to give you that little bit of help. Rights in Game 2, and for the Game 2 factions in general, are very situational, but I like that. It's a cool system. Obviously, not every race and faction does need it. They were introduced to be a unique thing, but right now a lot of the Game 1 races are suffering, so this does help lighten the load for them until they have their eventual reworks. Now let's look towards the Empire, who can do with a little bit of help. So you've got the Imperial Policies, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Then you've got Imperial Gunpowder, which is going to make you a lot stronger when it comes to dealing with hordes, for example, or Imperial Faith. You know, getting a little bit of extra bonuses versus Chaos, Skaven, and Vampire counts, which is kind of the mosh pit for you at the moment. You're dealing with a lot of Vlad, you're dealing with a lot of aggressiveness from, say, for example, Festus also, then random Skaven popping up, or Imperial Steel, just start boosting up your troops, while also getting access to a little bit more prestige from battle, which, again, very, very useful considering that the need for prestige early on is quite important. Not so much later on, but early on, yes. So yeah, I kind of like this. It does help out the Empire a little bit, especially since, yes, they do need a bit of a rework. They've had one, but not too great, I might say, especially later down the line when compared to Game 3 factions. Now, Imperial Provinces is actually quite interesting, as what will happen is a pop-up will come up and then you'll be able to get bonuses discussing matters of faith, matters of diplomacy, matters of war, matters of corruption. Doesn't really give us too much, just a little bit of information of what it'll do. So if we go onto the faith section, then it will start to say, okay, you can get a favor from Tal, favor from Verena, favor from Sigmar, favor from Ulrich. I'm not going to be going over everything, obviously, because there's quite a lot, but these are quite good bonuses, and it definitely gives you a lot to play around with. So yeah, getting some bonuses, just because, you know, this is the politic aspect of the Empire, is quite cool. So the Greenskins have pretty cool ones. You've got the Effigy of the Big War, which is obviously focusing around, you know, getting some reputation, getting a war up and running, some bonuses to recruitment rank. the effigy of the Bad Moon, which is focused around being sneaky and generally buffing up some night goblins, which is kind of cool. The effigy of the Spider God, which is focused around basically getting some spiders, extra winds of magic, extra experience for all spider units. This is very much focused on a lesser known god of the greenskins. And then the effigy of Gork and Mork. So you've got bonuses towards goblins, more goblins, different types of goblins obviously, your big orc gods, or you've got the choice of the general big one, which is probably going to be the one that most people are going to go for, obviously, as extra reputation means that you'll get to a war even closer. I kind of like this. This is cool. A little bit of flavor here for the different deities. And yeah, when it comes to the effigy of Gork and Mork, it's very much the same, but I kind of like this. It's either Gork is the best or Mork's the best, and you get bonuses for your army. I like this. Again, it's very much like the other effects that we see in vanilla for the orcs, where it's like, oh yeah, do you want to go with Gork or Mork? And the bonuses won't actually vary too much, which is cool, because at the end of the day, they're twin deities, aren't they? Looking towards the vampire counts, we have themed rites. So the rite of willpower focuses on a theme of the Necrarch. Then we got the rite of dominance, which will focus on the Von Carsteins, the rite of strength, which focuses on the blood dragons, and the rite of intrigue, which focuses on the Lemians. Kind of interesting because all of them are quite different. Everyone forgets about the Strigoi though, big sad. But then again, these tables aren't really good to actually have 5 different rites. But yeah, overall, quite good. I quite like the Rite of Intrigue, especially if you're playing as Vlad, because this means that you could get some better relations with, say, for example, the Empire, Kislev. Just allow yourself to deal with the Dwarfs and pretty much any other faction which is going to give you problems. The great thing that you might have noticed from all the ones that we've been showcasing so far is that they're all kind of themed with how you unlock them, so yeah, that's actually quite cool. Which is very obvious when we start looking towards, say, for example, the Wood Elves, which one of them, Invocation of the Hunt, only unlocks when you've either executed or released 10 sets of captives. Yeah, this is kind of cool. And yeah, the Wood Elves, again, have some pretty cool ones. You can either increase diplomatic relations with the other elves, or you can start focusing on getting extra forest health, which is obviously going to be quite important if you want those bonuses. Or make your ambushes even more terrifying with extra ammunitions for all armies. And finally, call for a hunt, you get a dilemma choice. I really like the idea of this, and again, it's very stylized. There's definitely an improvement from the original mod, which is still one of those ones that just never left my load order during the lifespan of Warhammer 2. Wood Elves are in a good place, but getting a little bit of a bonus is just kind of cool. And here it's shown with the Invocation of the Hunt. So once you just pick that up, you get access to a dilemma, which can get you some powerful bonuses. So either get some bonuses to, say, for example, the War Dancers, or even get some bonuses to your Wild Riders, your Great Stag Knights, and so on. Definitely is there to make the Wood Elves more aggressive, which, the Wood Elves are actually a fairly aggressive faction. They don't conquer that much, but anytime that Wood Elves tend to leave Athaloran, nothing good actually happens. But then again, when is anything ever good when an elf is involved? So Noska, a Game 2 faction, doesn't actually have rights, mostly because they were implemented in Warhammer 1 and didn't get implemented in Warhammer 2 base game. In fact, you could only play Noska if you had Mortal Empire, so you needed both games to be able to actually play them. Again, very, very weird. But yeah, this is a faction that desperately needs some help, and we've got unique rights here. We've got 4 for Wulfric, each of them being very different. So you've got the first one, which is focused around getting some extra cash from raiding and also better ambushes. You've got the second one, which is focused on attacking, so some extra melee attack for all armies, charge bonus for all armies, and even some campaign movement range regained after winning a battle, among others, which are just going to be quite good for you in general. This is something that's quite important for these types of factions, as they do suffer. Then when we start looking towards Frog, we've got the same ones, but one has changed. Obviously, the Rite of the Wanderer has been moved, and now you've got the Rite of the Troll King, which is gonna boost up your Trolls, Skin Wolves, Famir, actually make them fairly useful, which I'm alright with the Skin Wolves and the Famir. They do quite a decent amount of damage. I, for some reason, just don't know how to use trolls that well, though. I know it's just me, but I just don't know how to use trolls. They just break too easily for me, so seeing a little bit of a boost to them, making them a bit more violent with the whole charge bonus situation makes them a little bit better in my eyes. Still, I would prefer Wulfric over Frog myself, but that's personal choice. And then finally, the Warriors of Chaos. So you've got some pretty interesting ones here, and it's actually probably going to be the largest section in the video. Well, it is, because of a few reasons, but we'll get to that in a second. So you've got Cults of Chaos, which spawns a Chaos army next to your faction leader, so you'll be able to spawn in some help if you've got your faction leader being the most aggressive, which in most cases you will be. Then you've got being able to get extra casualty replenishment and some bonuses to recruitment rank, which again, very, very useful. Then you've got Storms of Chaos, which is probably the strongest. Perfect Vigor for Chaos Warriors, Chaos Spawn, and Chosen units, plus extra campaign movement and extra melee attack. And then finally, the Gods of Chaos, which will give you a dilemma. We're going to speak about all these. But the first we'll talk about is obviously the Cults of Chaos, which will spawn a fairly decent army in all honesty. Nothing too great, but if you're going in, if you're dealing with, say, for example, Kislev, where you're going to need a little bit of help, this spawns a vassal Warriors of Chaos army, which will do a bit of damage, or you can use them as a reinforcing army when you're dealing with, say, for example, Prague, Kislev, or anything else. They won't be as strong, considering that obviously this is a Warriors of Chaos faction and they'll need some Dark Fortresses, but you can have armies running around harassing, and let's be honest, they're going to be a little bit stronger than basic Norscan factions anyway. Gods of Chaos, on the other hand, will provide you some bonuses depending on the god that you have devoted to. So you can get a blessing from Nurgle, from Tzeentch, from Slaanesh, or from Khorne. Some army abilities just to give you a little bit more strength, be able to do a little bit more damage, as you're going to be dealing with a lot of enemies. Obviously, the Warriors of Chaos faction is going to be centered around being quite aggressive. Obviously, keep in mind that this is only available if you play an undivided character. Yeah, so obviously we do know that there are DLC lords now from the Champions of Chaos, which are focused on being divided, and they'll have very similar rights here and there, but they will have some differences too. So obviously when you spawn an army, it will be a Slaaneshi army, and it will spread Slaanesh corruption. Then you've got Champion of Slaanesh, which will give you some extra bonuses for Seduce unit cost, Slaanesh corruption, and so on. You'll still get Storms of Chaos, you'll still get Tides of Chaos, but it'll be focused around your stuff, and I like that. It's very thematic, it's obviously very different, and it's going to allow you for a little bit of a themed campaign. Again, if you're one of these people who like to replay factions but want a little bit of different flavor, and you want to play as one of the different divided lords. The divided lords pretty much have a identical set of rights. The only difference is obviously the corruption will change. It will focus around the units with your actual dedication. And I like this. I really, really do like this. Yeah, the Warriors of Chaos don't really need extra mechanics, let's be honest. Ever since Champions of Chaos, they've been brought into a game-free type of light, but an extra bit of flavor is always cool. Most people, I assume, will be using this mod for the other factions who really do need some help. The Greenskins could do a little bit. For the Empire, the Dwarfs, the Vampire Counts, all of them kind of need a little bit of a boost. Vampire Counts are actually quite strong, yet they feel boring right now, so having a little bit of a boost just is cool, right? I absolutely love this mod in Warhammer 2. I must say that it was one of my favorite again, because it was just so good, right? And again, it's coming in new and improved, which I think is absolutely phenomenal. There was some issues with its launch, but those have been fixed now, obviously, as you can tell by the footage. Because funny enough, all the factions had a Bretonnia, right, which was kind of funny. I would say if you want to play as the Game 1 factions and you want just a little bit more flavor, if you just want something a bit fun to play around with, this is definitely one of those mods that you're going to download and is never going to leave your load order. So yeah, you want to try this out. You can find it linked in the description below, and let me know what you guys think. Because that's always kind of fun. I feel like we're in a good place, that mods are coming out consistently for Total War Warhammer. Obviously it was a much slower last year, but now we're getting back into the whole Warhammer 2 cycle of stuff, where loads of really, really cool mods are either being debuted or returning. So yeah, I'm feeling fairly confident with the future of this title. I just can't wait to see what more Creative Assembly have planned. But with all that being said, have a great day, guys, and I'll see you all again very, very soon.